On what the awarding of the Nobel Peace Prize to Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed means for him and the continent, we are joined from our Durban studios by Vasu Gonden, the founder and executive director of the African Center for the Constructive Resolution of Disputes, ACCORD. Mr. Vasu, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us and a warm welcome to the Globe.
Good evening, Sambiwa.
Now, the Prime Minister's award was met with wide acclaim and, what's your feeling about this? Do you think that this was a deserved win?
Sambiwa, it's a proud day for Africa, I think, for all of us as Africans, for the Ethiopians, and for the Prime Minister himself. He certainly walks in the footsteps of greatness. We are very proud here in KwaZulu-Natal because the first of the 10 Africans who received the Nobel Peace Prize was a son of KwaZulu-Natal and a son of South Africa, Chief Albert Luthuli, and yesterday was the anniversary of him receiving the Nobel Peace Prize. So Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed now walks in the footsteps of greatness, including Nelson Mandela, and it's a proud day for our continent.
Indeed, it is a proud day for the continent, indeed, Mr. Vasu. I mean, what does it mean for him personally and, and the African continent as a whole?
Well, I think for him personally, he is a young leader. He's still in his 40s. And I think this beckons well for the entire continent that, and for a generation of young people, that this is the kind of inspirational and visionary leadership that can take our continent forward. He ended a 20-year war with Eritrea on a disputed territory. He accepted unconditionally the decision of the International Tribunal, Arbitration Tribunal. And I think this is the kind of visionary leadership we're looking for, where we will be able to end our conflicts and begin to transform our continent. And the things that he has done in the time that he has been in office shows that he is ready to transform Ethiopia and take it even to greater heights from what it has been taken over the last 20 years.
And speaking of his readiness to transform the country, I mean, and his public renunciation of past abuses, I guess, is what set him apart from his predecessors, and as well as, the pardoning of former dissidents and the appointment of such dissidents and a large number of women to senior leadership roles.
Sambiwa, if we look at Madiba here in South Africa, what set him apart from everybody else was the fact that he was able to forgive, not to forget, but to forgive and to say, let us draw a line in the sand and say, these are the past atrocities that were committed, these were the things that happened in our society, and now we draw a line and let's move forward and transform our country. And this is what Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has done, and I think this is, as I said earlier, the kind of leadership that the continent is yearning for. And so this is a well-deserved Nobel Peace Prize.
Do you think also his mixed Christian and Muslim background contributed to his endearment with the international community, particularly the Nobel Peace Prize Committee?
Well, I hope that wasn't the only issue that endeared him to the Nobel Peace Prize Committee. I think that certainly he has used it to his advantage to reconcile Muslims and Christians in his own country. And given the fact that we have so much of religious tension in the world, these kind of efforts by people like him will go a long way in reconciling religious differences, racial differences, ethnic differences, political differences. So it's a well-recognized award and well-deserved award because these are the kind of efforts that we need to encourage throughout the entire world. Ourselves as ACCORD, we've just launched a new initiative called Global Peace from the South, Global Peace from Africa, and we've just launched a new campaign, Plant Trees, Not Bombs. And this is one of the campaigns we will discuss with Prime Minister Abiy, because in his first 100 days, he also got Ethiopians to plant 350 million trees to ensure that Ethiopia's forests are reforested, contributing to dealing with climate change and environmental degradation throughout the world. So I think here's a very visionary leader, and again, it's an award that's well deserved.
I think we also need to analyze the criteria for the award of this Nobel Peace Prize, Mr. Vasu. I mean, peace in Ethiopia is under threat following his political liberalization project, which, of course, despite all its good intentions, has contributed to unleashing centrifugal political forces in the country. I mean, peace hasn't prevailed in its entirety in Ethiopia. What then could have possibly led to awarding of this prize?
Look, Simbiwe, democracy and liberalization comes at a price. And this is the price that Ethiopians are paying today for a society that they have themselves demanded, the opening up of the democratic space. Now, it means that if we are opening up and liberalizing, as we have done in South Africa, it comes at a huge price, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it. It just means that we have to find ways to manage it, to ensure that we reconcile our communities, build social cohesion. These are the challenges that even we are facing as a country today, following the fact that our own father of our nation, Nelson Mandela and Madiba, decided that we needed to move forward with democracy out of an autocratic apartheid system and begin to liberalize our own society. And today, as you see, we are facing many challenges, but we are still resilient as a nation 25 years later. And I'm sure 25 years from now, Ethiopians will face many challenges coming out of the democracy and liberalization that Prime Minister Abiy has opted for, but they will also be resilient. They have proved to be resilient in the past, and I'm sure they will be resilient in the future. And all of us as Africans have to support these initiatives.
How seriously do you think his detractors in Ethiopia will take this peace prize? I mean, in acknowledgement of this peace prize, would they be able to buy into Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's vision of peace?
I think, Simbiwe, this was one of the reasons the Nobel Peace Prize Committee decided at this stage to give Prime Minister Abiy the award. I know that many people are saying maybe it's too early, maybe it's the same criticism they had when President Obama received the award. They said it was too early in his tenure. But, you know, one of the things that awards do is to encourage people to say, you've done a great job, here's an award, here's recognition for the great job that you've done, and we are encouraging you to do even better. So I think for himself, yes, it's something that will spur him on to do better things in his society, to achieve greater heights, to reconcile his society. Now, coming to his detractors, I think firstly for all Ethiopians, it doesn't matter what shade, what color, it doesn't matter what's your politics. Today should be a proud day for all Ethiopians, as it is, as I said earlier, for all of us as Africans. We ought to be celebrating this. It won't take away the differences, but I think it should go a long way to saying to a nation, you have been rewarded, not as an individual, not the Prime Minister, but the nation of Ethiopia, the second most populous country on our continent. And now maybe his detractors will work with him to say, let us continue to bear this flag that has been fostered on us, this flag of peace, and carry it high as Ethiopians.
Well, as you say, that it won't take away all those differences, but then will it bring positive change, particularly in Ethiopia and Eritrea?
Well, certainly. I mean, if you look at the relationship between Ethiopia and Eritrea, it has stabilized to an extent. Yes, there's still a long way to go. If we look at Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's initiatives in Sudan, between Sudan and South Sudan, between Djibouti and Eritrea, you know, he has moved beyond the borders of Ethiopia to ensure that there's stability in the entire region, because he understands that without stability in his region, there won't be stability in Ethiopia. So yes, it's going to be a long and difficult road. It's going to be a challenging road. This is just one stop to celebrate a short victory. But yes, there's going to be a long, long road. And as I said, we have to say as Africans, this is a bright day for all of us. But there's a long road and we've got to walk it together.
I mean, just looking at the reaction from world leaders, what does that tell you about how the world now looks at Ethiopia after this prize?
Well, I'm very happy that, you know, the image of Ethiopia as a famine-prone country, where people look at Ethiopia and say, you know, they think about famine. They think about, children lying on the ground, looking very hungry, looking completely famished. And this is the image that has always been there of Ethiopia. Now, some people, I've been going to Ethiopia since 1993. And I go there every year since 1993, at least 2 or 3 times a year, because we do a lot of work with then Organization of African Unity and today the African Union. And I have to say, Ethiopia has made remarkable strides. The country is highly developed from what it was, and they've made huge progress in transforming the country. It's a completely different country from what it was in 1993. So certainly I think, it has changed the image of the world, this award, and more people will now focus on Ethiopia, and they will begin to see not just the problems and the challenges of Ethiopia, but also the opportunities and the positive things that have happened in Ethiopia.
Indeed. Mr. Gonden, thank you so much for your time. Much appreciated. That was Mr. Vasu Gonden, the Executive Director of the African Center for the Constructive Resolution of Disputes, ACCORD. This is The Globe on SABC News. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.